Reporting from occupied East Jerusalem, it is 20 minutes past 4 p.m., which was the time when, as of now, we expect we could at any point see movement on the release of captives from Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners from inside Israeli jails. Now, Thailand's prime minister, you heard Rory talking about Thai nationals that have been held in Gaza. Thailand's prime minister has confirmed on social media that 12 Thai workers who were taken captive by Hamas have been released. This has happened on the sidelines of the deal that's going to see the release of Israeli captives and Palestinian prisoners released. Bangkok had been holding separate talks to repatriate about 24 Thai nationals taken captive by Hamas from southern Israel on October the 7th. Let's bring in our diplomatic editor, James Bays. James, a lot of moving parts right now. I'm just finding out about the Thai nationals being released. This is, I suppose this is consistent to some extent with what we've known about these negotiations, there are these negotiations between Hamas, the main ones, Hamas, Israel, mediated by Qatar between Hamas and Israel, but there are also bilateral negotiations, apparently, between Hamas and other countries whose nationals they're holding.
Yeah, the Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman, when he was giving the details about 24 hours ago of the main deal, said this is just a deal involving Israeli captives and potentially Israeli dual nationals on one side and Palestinian prisoners on the other. But we know that there are other nationals involved, and we know that there were these 23 Thais who were taken captive back on October the 7th. Now, what were these Thai nationals doing in southern Israel? They were agricultural workers, and Thailand had been very strongly making the case that they are not part of the conflict that is going on. They just happen to be in the area. They are not rich people. They were doing a pretty lowly job there in southern Israel. They're not parties to this conflict, and they should be released. And what is interesting is Thailand's been trying to get as much support as it can for their release, and it's been speaking to a country that it has reasonably good relations with, which is Iran. And Iran has been doing, we believe, mediation on behalf of Thailand for these nationals. Also worth, given that the Qatari channel is the main channel of communication to Hamas, worth telling you that the Iranian foreign minister was here in Doha in the last few hours. So I think significant. We're all waiting for the Israeli captives that are part of this formal deal, but that's going to involve 13 people, we think. We've already got 12 people, 12 Thai nationals released, now confirmed by the Thai Prime Minister. This is 12 out of 23. Of course, we don't know how many of those 23 are still alive and whether any of the Thai nationals died in the 47 days of Israeli bombardment of Gaza.
One really simple lesson from this latest news that 12 Thai workers have actually been released is that this is somehow working. There is a mechanism. We've been talking about the mechanics of the deal. We've been explaining to our viewers that this is quite complicated, that there needs to be trust between these two sides, Israel and Hamas. Clearly, Hamas has found a way to release captives when it came to the Thai nationals.
Absolutely, and it was not clear to me yet whether the International Committee of the Red Cross were the facilitators for this, but I think that's probably likely, and they are the facilitators, we believe, of the first batch of Israeli captives, the 13 that we're expecting to be released any time soon. And it's also worth telling you, here in this newsroom, there are people poring over all of the live pictures coming from the scene at the moment to see if we see anyone crossing the border at Rafah. Well, it seems that 12 Thai nationals have crossed that border and no one saw them.
You know, I was going to say, it's unlikely that we're going to see something on these live pictures, but actually I could be completely wrong. We don't know what to expect. I mean, maybe a group of captives shows up and they're caught on these live shots. We don't know, which is why we're looking at them every second. Can you explain to our viewers, can you address the notion of how fragile this is? The reason we're talking so much about the mechanics of the deal is because when the mediator has presented how this was going to work, he was at pains to explain, you know, we're watching this every second because it could go wrong.
Yeah, well, after the events of October 7th and after everything that's happened since in terms of the intensity of the bombardment, there's absolutely no trust between the two central parties here. And so they've had to try and make a plan that would not build trust, but build momentum into the process. And so what you've had is the ceasefire, temporary ceasefire coming into effect, and then this staged process of captives will be released, Israeli captives by Hamas, and then also, as we're seeing now, Palestinian prisoners released by Israel. And if both sides have got something from day one, then we think there'll be another set of lists prepared for day two with another batch of people that are held by Hamas, women and children held by Hamas, and then another batch of prisoners, women and children that are held by Israel in Israeli jails, Palestinians, and then day two can go on. And it's going to be like this. It's going to be day by day. They're obviously very, very concerned about some sort of accidental violation of this, that some way the ceasefire will be broken. I can tell you there is a control room here in Doha. The Qataris have set up real-time links, direct links with the Israeli side, with Mossad, with lines to the Israeli military. And, of course, Qatar has a direct line to Hamas as well. The idea being, if there's some sort of problem, some sort of minor violation, that they can try and sort it there and then, and it doesn't become something that brings down the whole of this planned ceasefire of 4 days. And I think many are hoping that this can extend beyond 4 days.
So this is it. You were talking about momentum. The point of momentum, obviously, is to go beyond the 4 days. Explain that, because the Qatari mediators, again, were saying this is phase one, essentially, these 4 days. And for as uncertain and unsure and fraught with risk and difficulty as they are, the mediators are hoping that this can take us into day 5, 6, 7, and maybe beyond.
Well, then you start to have a problem, because it's very hard to know how many days exactly, and because we don't know with regard to Hamas, and we don't think Hamas hold all of the captives in Gaza, how many of these captives are alive. So we don't know how many women and children there are in total alive, because I have to say, once you go beyond the women and children, on both sides, the stakes start getting much, much higher. Both sides will want more in return. And remember the stated position of the Israeli government, backed by the US as well, which is that Israel retains its right of self-defense after October the 7th, and Israel's making it clear that it hasn't finished with its aims of this war, and that they will be restarting this war. Now, could they be persuaded not to do that? My own view is, having seen the intensity of the way they've prosecuted this war, I think when they say they mean to resume it, they mean that.
Yeah, so far they have fulfilled their promises when it comes to attacking Gaza and bringing unprecedented firepower to bear in this war. Thank you very much. James Bays, Al Jazeera senior diplomatic editor, for joining us.